This is a picture of regular guy Donald Trump, billionaire Donald Trump, hanging out with his second wife or maybe his second girlfriend. Not sure exactly where the relationship status was at this point. It was March the 6th, 1991. He's courtside with Elliot Gould and Marlon Maples watching the Knicks play the Suns. No big deal because he's a billionaire. He's a rich guy. The Knicks are known for having lots of rich guys, basically all the franchise live, hanging out at the court. But it becomes a bit complicated as coming up on this Wednesday, the Knicks are coming back home for Game 3 of the NBA Finals and their first finals appearance in like a quarter of a decade. So politics is meeting basketball at Madison Square Garden at the wrong time with the wrong ticket prices and probably the wrong guy, as Trump's visit causes headaches for fans across the way and probably some issues for the people who actually have to run the games themselves. The Knicks are preparing to host this Game 3 of the Finals. It's anticipated attendance of Donald Trump is becoming a larger story than the actual game. Trump has long described himself as a New York Knicks fan, despite now choosing to be a Florida man on purpose. But he's frequently gone to sporting events. They've been sort of hit or miss. He took both sides at the Naval Academy, or for the Army Navy game, because you have to do that part. He's gone to football games and people have booed. He's gone to baseball games and people have booed. It's a thing. And as president of Madison Square Garden is also going to be a thing, and logistics is the real thing. Not so much will the crowd turn on him, but will the crowd actually be in their seats by the time things get started or nearby to cheer on the team they actually want to see win? Because whether a current or former president wants to go anywhere public, the United States Secret Service always puts some sort of kind of security into places. When he's a former president, there will be all sorts of craziness going on to get into a game. But now that he's the current president and he's running countries and wars and economies and things like that, it's pretty important to keep an eye and keep him in safety. So there are reports saying that fans do have tickets, which were so overpriced that normal fans can't actually afford tickets. They'll actually have to arrive significantly earlier to clear the enhanced screening checkpoints, like 2 hours earlier than getting into the game on a normal time and a normal screening for something like a championship attendance. For people who already paid the premium prices for the finals, they now have to add on 2 hours, 3 hours before tip-off, just hanging out just to get through to navigate the tired security because frustrations. But the people who are really frustrated are the people of New York City. The most complicated part are complaints coming from the fans who actually gave up on not being able to afford the tickets to get inside the building, but were content with hanging out at watch parties outside the buildings. There will still be some watch parties at various venues in New York City and New Jersey. There's a lot of area to go hang out in. But the problem was there was going to be some designated areas outside the garden nearby the place. And those have been either adjusted, in most cases postponed to Game 4, or canceled outright because they don't want to deal with it. Maybe Trump will come to Game 4 and make it even more complicated. These reports suggest that the viewing areas are just not going to be available around Madison Square Garden. And because of that, many New Yorkers, the gatherings was supposed to be their most affordable way to participate in this historic event. And now it pretty much gets them out and makes Trump a bit more unpopular in New York City. The reactions is basically a reality of how things work wherever Trump is. Even when it's unrelated to politics, they come politically charged anyway because he's there. Some fans are pretty much welcoming the former president's appearance, and they think the critics are really throwing this out of proportion. Let the man come watch a basketball game. Let him show that he's a real American. Let him do it. Meanwhile, the folks who kind of have sense in this case are arguing that his presence is pretty much unnecessarily, complicates everything, and should be focused the day, the time, the whole week on basketball until the job is done. The result is that the sporting event becomes another venue for broader political, cultural divisions and characterizations of modern America. We get to show just how crazy and divided we are, and Trump doesn't have to talk about the Epstein files. Oh, I'm sorry. Did I bring up the Epstein files? Yeah, Trump doesn't have to talk about the Epstein files, unless someone may ask him in the crowd. It's possible. So, but lost in all this discussion about security is the fact that the Knicks are actually one of the biggest moments in their franchise history. This is the first chance to get a win in the championships in like 20, 30 years. They have a 2-0 lead in the NBA Finals. They have a chance to set aside a real sweep of the San Antonio Spurs, a team they weren't supposed to be able to beat, and they beat them twice at their home court. The team is returning home with a chance to get into this thing and really get moved closer and make it work. And now there's a distraction. Knicks fans are ultimately more concerned with whether the team wins than whether Trump shows up. Yet the added security measures demonstrate how high-profile political figures can affect events far beyond political arena itself. There are a lot of stars at the games in San Antonio. In fact, yet the game that was on the second game, game two, there was a lot of people on the X talking about how many stars actually show up for a game in the middle of San Antonio, middle of Texas for anything. And they've won lots of championships. Meanwhile, we have Donald Trump, who will be the biggest star if he does show up on Wednesday at the Garden for this thing, maybe keeping Spike Lee and Ben Stiller in the line for a bit longer for screening because those guys do look a little shady, but we'll see how it plays. But to take your boy, him and Barron can go hang out at the game and just chill out for a little bit. You have that power. Hey, who's not going to take it? Let's talk about the positives, the pros, if you will, of a Trump attendance at this game. It brings additional national attention to the attendance of the event that has all the national attention right now other than the hockey finals, which is also amazing, with the Golden Knights up 2-1 in their matchups. It also demonstrates a broad cultural appeal at NBA Finals. Yes, the leader of the free world is taking time out from the wars and avoiding talking about Epstein to hang out at the NBA Finals with the peeps, or the rich peeps, because the real peeps can't get into the building. And it also reflects a tradition of major public figures attending championship events. This is a big deal. This is really big. This is bigger than him going to these UFC events. This is actually bigger than the White House bloodfest that will be here in a couple of days as well, because this is something that was already in place and will mean something going forward, as opposed to all the other things that are just sort of events to show up for. Now, yes, there are downsides. There are definitely lots of cons, pun intended, for the Don to show up for this game. It means increased security and the inconvenience for people who actually have tickets and have gone through all the process of doing what they can do to get there. It means watch parties for fans who don't have tickets, canceled and disrupted for the folks who can't afford to really be a part of the big action, but they found a way to put them in anyway. And it shifts attention away from the players and the staff and the game itself. The Knicks should be focusing on beating down the Spurs. And the Spurs should be focusing on getting back in contention against the Knicks. They are all now wondering about what the distraction Donald J. Trump's going to have on the game, because it is a distraction. For many New Yorkers, this issue is less about Donald Trump personally, because some still love the guy, and more about the practical consequences of hosting a former president in the city's most anticipated sporting event in years. He knows better. He knows he's a distraction, but he loves it. And so that's why it's happening. That's why it's happening. The Knicks championship pursuit remains the headline, but security logistics have become an unavoidable subplot to the issue. We will see plenty of stories written up this week about what happens. Something may actually happen, and he may pull out of this event, and they may be able to undo some of the undones, hopefully. In the meantime, it's Donald Trump. He's stepping up because he can. He wants to put his face, his name, his likeness, other things that don't exist, and just be a part of the issue. Make sure that you do remember him when it's all said and done. And you will remember this, even if he does not show up for the 3 or 4 days of weird disruption that it caused in the action. So let's talk about it. Donald Trump's going to see the Knicks play Game 3. Are you going to Game 3? Probably not, because you probably can't afford a ticket. If you can, are you going to deal with the issues or try to sell your ticket? If you're not going inside the game because of the watch party outside of Madison Square Garden, are you going to go to a Chili's or a Buffalo Wild Wings or another party someplace else, or just try to watch it at home and be sad because you can't be a part of the action? Remember, there is still a Game 4, maybe Game 5 or so if possible, but they have to actually make it happen and win one of those games to make it the big magical appeal. If they do happen to sweep and you can't be a part of Game 3, what will this mean to you? Are you a person who just, wants all this craziness to go on so the Knicks get freaked out and the Spurs get a chance to go back up 2 games before they go back to San Antonio? Maybe that's actually what you're looking at. We shall see as we go forward for this one.